And we're back. Welcome back to the Fresh Oil Podcast. I'm your host, Pastor P, and I have with me some very, very special guests. They are a team, a couple, amen, that are doing some really great big things, and they go under the title MLB Speaks. We have Martin and Nell Barrett, correct? Did I say that right? Barrett, amen. All right, we got Martin and Nell Barrett, and they are here with us on today. Introduce yourselves to the people, Martin and Nell.
Well, hey, my name is Martin.
I'm Nell.
And as we say always, we are MLB Speaks. You know, we come really just, really wanting to make a difference in the lives of individuals who we do, whether it's from a marital standpoint, for corporate America and their teams, whether it's a religious organization, churches, just going in and just doing leadership and just showing them what does leadership look like from a mentor standpoint, because our end game is to really create mentors from who we are, because we didn't get where we are today on our own, because we got where we are today because of the mentors that's been in our lives.
That's what's up. We're going to talk about all of this stuff. I really want to talk about your mentorship programs and all of that stuff. But we start off our podcast every single time. I try to do a word association called Word for Word. And I'm going to throw some words at you guys. And I want you to give me the first thing that comes to mind. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it fresh. Let's keep it off the top of your head. You guys ready for it?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So the first word I want to throw at you is mentor.
Corporate America.
Corporate America. Okay. All right. Why corporate America?
Because there's a lack of mentorship, I find, in a lot of corporations. Okay. A lot of people have titles, but that doesn't mean that they're a mentor. You know, when you're a leader, they say lead by example. But what that really means is you have to roll up your sleeves and lead those individuals. Anyone can have a title and dictate to individuals what they need to do, but are they actually leading them? Because a good mentor is going to show them how to excel so that they don't be in that same type of situation 5, 10, 12 months or 2, 3, 4 years down the road.
Right, right. That's good stuff. All right, all right. Okay, that sounds good. Next word, since I got both of you guys here. I'm going to say for you, Martin, fatherhood, and for you, Nell, motherhood.
Leading.
Leading. I like that. We'll say that again.
Example.
Example. Okay, okay. Expound on leading and Nell expound on example.
Well, when I think of motherhood, I think of being the example that I want my children to see and how I live my life, and just pretty much when I'm with them to show them, hey, this is how a mom would do: love you, discipline you, be there for you through the good times and the bad times. Just being an example of loving my child.
Yeah. All right, Mark.
You know, when I think about leading, it's sort of like, you know, when you're in the front of the line. Remember when you was a kid, you're in the front of the line, and the teacher says, hey, you know what? You get to lead the line.
Uh-huh.
That was like an honor and a privilege when I was a child.
Oh, yeah.
And I look at that as a father, as I lead, they're going to follow my example. And it's very imperative as fathers and as dads that we lead with a good example, not just like in our work ethic. For us, you know, we're faith-based, you know, how we train them, you know, what do we give them as far as type of examples? Listen,
Mhm.
I used to tell my daughter, I have adult children. We tell our kids when they were young, guess what? You didn't know how to change a battery. Or because if you do not know how to change a flapper inside of a toy,
Mhm.
because if you're paying somebody, you're gonna be broke. So leading them by example, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen, I know a guy literally, he paid somebody $75 to come and change the flapper in his toilet. I told him, next time you get a flapper broke in your toilet, give me a call. I'll charge you $60.
I know that's right.
Listen, a flapper is one of the easiest things you can fix.
Come on. If not the easiest thing. Listen, I feel you. If you want to just throw away money, hey, I say, I feel you. I feel you. You can put it in my pocket. I feel you.
I'm all game.
Take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Hey, listen. So we joke, back in the days, can I say it? Where you went to school, we like, that's a joke, So she went to a technical school, and I always tell her, so why we gotta buy a house? Why don't you just build it for me?
No, that's right. Build it up from the ground up. That's what's up. Listen, my wife says that to me all the time. She says, I know if I put something in front of you that you could put it together for me. She always says to me, you can do anything. And I said, listen, you're putting a lot of pressure on me, okay? I don't know if I can do anything. She's like, anything I ask you to do, I know that you can do it. I was like, don't put that much pressure on me. Huh? Say that again. Oh man. I'm trying. I try. I'll try for her, like you said. I'll try for her. But yeah, she
Just
puts a
don't
lot
go
of
to
pressure on.
IKEA, man. Just don't go to IKEA.
Don't mess
So you got to put everything together.
Listen, why is it that every time you purchase something that's supposed to beautify your home, it comes in 1,000 pieces?
Yes, listen. I bought a display one time. I'm not kidding you. There was no English instructions in it.
No.
Oh, that's the
Listen,
worst.
listen.
That's the worst.
I got it done. Here's something funny. You ready? When I got it done, you ain't gonna believe this.
About the instruction?
One piece was wrong.
Yeah.
I had to take the whole thing
Part, right?
You talk about frustration.
Now that part I hate. Yeah, when you thought you got it all together, then you misplaced one piece. You gotta take the whole thing apart to put the piece right. Oh, sometimes I just leave it.
Listen, yeah.
I just leave it.
That's what we do. We're, as marriage and relationship mentors, we tell people, you know what, you gotta look at the instructions. And a lot of times, what couples don't like to do, and they don't like to look at the instructions. Hey, listen, I sit on a board for youth mentors for middle and high school males, and we tell them, listen, the reason why you're here as a mentee is because we want you to follow the instruction book, because it's better to take it now, because if you don't follow that manual today, listen, you will pay enormously later in life.
Definitely. Listen, that's good stuff, y'all. All right, I got a couple more words I want to throw at you, and then we'll wrap up this segment. Let's go with faith.
I say, forsaking all, I trust him.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I think so. Now there's a reason for that. Okay.
Let's hear this.
All right. So, my wife, I think about, when we met, we grew up together.
Okay.
Childhood neighbors, literally, like babies, same neighborhood. We was neighbors since we was babies, And I think about, I think one of her earlier mentors, like you probably like Doris, right? That was her boss. She was a great mentor. And Doris was really inspiring. And during that time, when my wife was doing something else in a career perspective, I actually was in a hip hop group. Actually, I was in one of the first early hip hop groups that was Christian, actually, going that far back. Going back, I started out in the 80s. Okay. Now, a lot of people don't really realize that, and I called myself Faith. And really, because I was already in the hip hop culture before I became a Christian.
Okay.
Doing shows, opening up for like MC Shan, Eric B. and Rakim. And when I became a Christian, listen, it was difficult. A lot of these cats that are out there now today who are doing, pray and all of them, it's the guys from back then who helped pave the way for a lot of these guys today. And I said it was hard because there was no Instagram, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was no email back then. Okay, let's look at all this stuff in the '80s. All that stuff was not around. And listen, we was promoting, our stuff from the trunk. They say junk in the trunk.
Yeah,
we was selling our stuff out of the trunk of the car. That's what we was doing. That's how we moved. Listen, I went through 3 production runs of cassettes when we was doing it.
Yeah,
that's a lot of product.
Yeah,
and that's without. I decided not to sign a record deal because I knew the business, of the music business, and that was publishing and all that stuff because that's where the money was at. But it took faith, really, because not like what we call blind faith or an emotional faith, but really trusting God to help me to really reach those individuals that I was trying to do. And you know what? I was successful at it, and I'm thankful, not because of successes, but when I look back, I see a lot of those kids are adults now. They're like in their 20s. Some of them will get married. Some just got married. One of them just got married recently. He's like 35 years old now. So, which is awesome to see. Back then I didn't see the fruit of the labor, but now I get to see the fruit of the labor. And I'm going to say one thing. We did a tour. We sponsored our own tour. We had corporate sponsors. We had businesses rather sponsor our tour and our booklet. This is back in like the early 90s.
Okay.
It's crazy, huh?
That is crazy. You don't hear about that nowadays. You were able to get corporate sponsors.
Yeah, we have businesses sponsor us, man. They pay for advertising in our tour booklet.
Wow. That's awesome. Listen, man, I could talk about this stuff all day, but I want to drop one more word on y'all before we close out this segment. Let's go with this one. Let's go with relationship. I heard y'all talk a little bit about. I could tell you guys have been together for a while, so let me throw that one at you. Relationship.
Togetherness.
Say it again.
Togetherness.
Togetherness. Okay.
Yeah. Relationship. I think like when it comes to relationship, it's the art of being together, communicating, being there, trying to understand one another, his likes, my likes, dislike, his needs, my needs. It's all about the relationship as far as like communication. And I think that's the key to any relationship, whether it's a work relationship, a married relationship, a parent-child relationship, it's all in the communication.
Yes, that's good. That's good stuff. You want to add anything?
Well, we'll probably talk about something like that, when we get into the marriage thing. But I think really communication is key.
Yeah.
A lot of problems arise when there's a lack of communication. Even like before we got on our video today with you guys, you communicate some things to us and we communicate some things back to you. The reason why, whether you're in a work relationship, people leave companies because the communication, there's a breakdown. People leave churches because there's a breakdown in communication. And I always tell people, if you're not communicating with your people, whether it's your spouse, your children, the people that you're leading, whether it's in a church environment, religious environment, corporate environment, a community environment, you know what? People are going to feel like, they're going to feel dissatisfied, like they're not a part of it, because when it's not reciprocal. If it's only a one way, then that's when there's going to be a breakdown.
Yeah.
And the people are going to be thinking one thing, then be thinking another thing, because why? To communicate.
That's it. That's good stuff. Guess what, guys? You made it through word for word. Good job, guys. That was good stuff. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to jump into our next segment. Listen, guys, you are watching the Fresh Oil Podcast. Yo, what's good, family? It's your boy Joe Boss, boldly overtaking to save souls. Listen, you are watching the Fresh Oil Podcast. Keep it locked. And we're back. Welcome back to the Fresh Oil Podcast. I'm here with MLB Speaks, Martin and Nell. I thank God for you guys being on the show. I'm going to ask you guys a quick question. I want to know, Martin, you said that you have a background in music, that you were one of the first to start with the Christian rap. Now it's called Christian hip hop. They got so many different genres now of Christian music, as far as Christian irons, what they call it, rhythm and soul music, and all this other stuff. They got so many different genres. But you said you have some experience in this genre in music industry. So tell me, how did you start off in the music industry besides before you jumped onto the Christian side? So what did you do in the industry before that?
Yeah, well, just before I go to there, we used to call it soul music.
Soul music, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
even though for the very religious people, we called it Christian rap, but in general, we called it soul music because we wanted to set ourselves apart. A lot of times, people put like a Christian cliche name on things to make it feel like I'm very spiritual. You know what I mean? But and there's no spirituality in it because the person may be a very immature Christian. You know what I mean? Not rooted and grounded in God's word and his truth. But my background, going back, my family is a very musically inclined family. My dad played the piano. My brother was one of very, very well respected studio musician. He was a worship leader out in Arizona for a really respected church. He played with some of the greats, like Jonathan Dubose, Mickey and all the other guys. He's played for a lot of different people on their albums in general.
Good.
Blessings. He was the individual who actually didn't lead me to faith. I come from a Christian background. My family were Christians. But as you know, we're not born into Christianity like Jewish people are. My background started really in the hip hop, with a group. We was doing rap in the community. I grew up in the era of the Kool Hercs and the Bambatas of the world. And I remember as a teenager, while all my friends were, doing one thing, I was going to Manhattan and to Brooklyn and going into workshops, really just learning the business of music. As a young guy, I read a book. It's about this thick. It's called The Business of Music. That gives you corporate law, copyright law. It gave me a really good understanding of, publishing, contracts, everything you name it. I read that book as a teenager, cover to cover, because I realized that, when I did a Welch's grape, they had like a Welch's grape juice or soda contest when I was a teenager. I did my first recording at a studio that they say MJ did one of his singles there. And they brought all these rappers in. I was a little teenager I think like 15 years old, 14, 15 years old. Sony had sponsored it, I believe, at that time. So I did my recording for them, but I never got the recording. And I learned that day is that, I just got burned. And I said, that will never, ever happen to me ever again. So that's when I said, I made a conscious choice to learn the business. Then I learned that it was not just being a writer and a producer. It was about also learning the business of music. Yeah. And that's when we had a group called Solid Ice, eBay and D Solid Rock. We really went into a lot of different things. We did a lot of shows. We did a lot of studio work. We started to open up for a lot of different groups. And we were very fortunate. We were actually on the verge of signing with, I don't know if you know the label, Fourth and Broadway Records, same label as like Eric B. and Rakim. Yeah. We were on the verge of being signed to that label at the time, but some things happened, which, not going to discuss, But maybe God had it that way, that we don't sign with them because years later, because I was producing the music for the group at the time. And then what happened was my dad passed away, and literally, I'm gonna back up. I have some really good friends, like guys who are good, partners and mentors for us. Dave Money from Three to Hard Way, the Skinny Boys, which you may have known as Shock and Sean and Super J. They played a role in shaping because they had a stronger platform and they were out there doing their thing, in the city in New York.
Yeah.
So we was on that back row up and coming right behind them. But then the great thing is, Christ got a hold of my life. My brother came home. He was doing some stuff. He became a Christian. And one of my older brothers, I'm the youngest of 8. And my brother came home and he says, "Hey, Martin, I see God doing some really good work in your life, man, doing doing some rapping for Jesus." I was like, "Nah, I'll do that, bro. I'll do that, bro." And lo and behold, they've been praying for me all this time. And my dad passed away. This is back in '88. My dad passed away.
Okay.
And like literally a week later, I'm like in my bedroom, like I was just listening to ZZ Top working. We just got finished working on a remix of like a Willie Nelson tune called On the Road Again. We turned it into a rap tune. Was in the studio. We redid that and gave my heart to the Lord, December 11th, 1988. And I never looked back ever since. And, I don't think that night, that we're all good friends, all the guys in the group.
Yeah.
But I never got cussed out so much in my life. The dancers, listen, I think they invented new curse words that night. Listen, I'm like, what's wrong with you, bro? Are you serious? I was like, yeah, man, I give my heart to the Lord.
Listen, I know that place. I was there too. I was into music, but I wasn't into music like you was into music, and I was into the streets more than the music. So what happened to me is when I gave my life to Christ, everybody said the same thing. Man, have you lost your mind?
Yeah, they think you're crazy,
You tripping, man. But when God gets a hold of us, man, there's nothing that we can do. We have to yield to His Spirit. Now, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you telling us about how God used what you were in to pull you or draw you into Him. That was good. That was good stuff.
But I'd say one thing though, and that is, when I became a Christian, then I started working at this small bookstore. Okay. But then the opportunity came for me to become an executive in the business because I already remember as a teenager I was learning the business of music. I learned that that when I got into the business of music, I became one of the most young executives at one of the biggest music distributors in the country at the time. And it was very few minorities working in there in the office area. Yeah. To be honest with you, most of the minorities were working in the warehouse. So, this brother comes in, he's a young guy, he's 22, 23 years old. And they was like, "Can you help us reach and strengthen our urban music?" And I look back, listen, I never forget them telling me, my boss at the time said, "You got 90 days. I'm like, "I done quit my job." He's like, "You got 90 days. If you don't do well, you're fired." I'm like, "Really?"
Wow.
Great. But listen, I did so well. I got to the point, I was promoted. They relocated my wife and I to Florida, and I got promoted to the urban music sales and marketing manager at that time, living in Florida. And then when I left there, then I did a small stint at Sony Records, working for Relativity, because at that point I got tired of promoting and marketing. It was great doing I was a Christian, I was doing like the Dr. Dre sales and marketing, promoting them to like all the big urban retailers all across the country, from East Coast to West Coast. But then, it got to the point, I think Luke Skywalker was out, and listen, I just, inside my head, I was just like, this is just too dirty, man. And I just couldn't do it no more. Than a friend of mine who was a vice president at another label, and he knew someone else, and I went to go work for a Christian label that was a part of Relativity at the time. I did a small stint for Sony Relativity, doing some Christian stuff. And then I just said, you know what? I just at that point, the industry changed. Napster came out, started giving away
it's
music
interesting that you
digitally.
said that, because I remember reading something that you were saying about how the industry had changed and you had to change with the industry.
Yeah, pivot.
You said that's the word. You said you pivoted. And I
That's
said,
right.
I wanted to ask you, what was that pivot? What was that you had to change when the industry changed? You said there was a shifting, a pivot. I wanted to see what did God show you?
Well, what happened was I had a great idea before there was an Amazons of the world, iTunes. What's the other one? Like Spotify. I just didn't have the VCs, the venture capitalists, to go into and invest in my idea. I had an idea of a digital turntable before there was a digital turntable. And I didn't have it. My wife Nell would tell you, I just didn't have the VCs. I would have needed at least $300,000 at the time. And I didn't have expendable cash like that. But I pivoted into technology actually, because that was the time of the tech boom, technology boom. And I was like, listen, we had we was about to have our first kids, our first child around 2000. And I was just like, wow, the tech boom. I got into the technology company and that money is great. I'm going to be honest with you. I was doing network server switches, data backups, showing people, working with schools and education. And listen, it created a good financial situation for my wife and I and our family. It really did.
That's awesome. So I was wondering what that pivot was. I love that word. When I was reading an article that you had did with, I believe it was Fox News.
Yes.
And you said that you pivoted. I said pivot. I love that word because a lot of times we fail to move in areas when God is trying to push us in another direction. We get so complacent in the areas that we're in till we are afraid at times to pivot or to move into things that God may be trying to push us into for our betterment. And when you said that, I said, man, I love that word because I wish that more people in this season would pivot.
I couldn't make that pivot, honestly, if it wasn't for my wife. My
That's
wife
it.
literally, she always had this saying, what's that saying about turning the head?
It goes like man is in control, but it's the wife who turns the head.
And listen, and
I like that.
and it's
say
important
that one more time.
He's the head, but it's the wife who turns the head. And as women, we have to be there to support our man, our husband, because you know what, we can make them go one way or another. So you have to be really, really being there, being supportive of him, but you have to be careful who your spouse is too, because they may not be like-minded as you are.
That's right. And listen, I tell guys, listen, I got the best wife there is. I know you say your wife is great, but I got the number one wife. It is what it is. So, but
hey,
but
we all feel the same way about our wives, man.
Exactly.
Listen,
but listen, she's a praying woman. She's
like
a praying woman.
Yeah.
And she prays for me constantly. I've traveled extensively across the U.S. For business. And listen, there's a lot of dirty things out there. I know when my wife is praying for me, because truly I goes, man, Lord, I'm praying for myself too at the same time now.
Yeah.
But you can't beat a praying wife and a praying husband.
That's it. Listen, that's good stuff, guys. I want to talk to you guys about your 26 years. You're about to celebrate 26 years of marriage. I'm excited for you guys because you don't hear about couples staying together for long periods of time anymore. America has probably the highest divorce rate in the world. More people are walking away from marriages, but I love to see when we have couples that are walking back towards each other and staying in relationship. So let me ask this. With your relationship, I hear you speak highly of your wife, and that's good. But in your relationship, what is it that you can say was probably the hardest thing that you all had to overcome? What was the most difficult thing that you said, you know what, we got to work this part of our relationship out so that we can last? Because I know that every relation comes to that pivot point. Like, I love that word, where you have saying, listen, we got to figure this part out or it's not going to work. So what was that for you guys?
I think we had to learn how to talk things over. We
Mm,
really had to learn how to talk things over because you got to understand, when we got married, even though we grew up together, we um, listen. First of all, back when we was kids, we used to play this game called Boys Chase the Girls.
Don't tell that story.
Listen, I caught her on the back staircase, and to this day, she would not kiss me. And you know what? She's in denial. We was about 8, 9 years old. I called her. Listen, she was in the back staircase. She's a twin. My wife's a twin, so it wasn't her sister. I knew exactly who they were. And you know what? But it don't matter. It's all good now because I get to kiss her all the time I want.
mm-hmm.
So but I think we got to learn how to talk things over, right, my babe?
I think so. I think you're right. And also, too, I want to add that we made a decision together, and that we were going to stick together no matter what. And that we realized a long time ago that love is not just a feeling, but it's a decision. And we decided together that we were going to stay committed to one another.
That's good.
A lot of times what happens is, you think about it in Proverbs, he talks about a lot of different things. I'm going to grab this scripture here. I think I got there. It says, the words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The words of a man's mouth are deep waters in Proverbs 18:4. And you think about that because when two people, when they get married, what happens is they need to find a way to really, truly, truly to understand each other. And that's real important. Or the relationship, what's going to happen is it's going to actually be in trouble.
Yeah.
They have to learn to the point to understand each other. And when he said when two become one, and that goes back to the point of, here's something interesting, learning how to think things over. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. There's a reason for that. To listen twice as much and talk less.
So that's it. I say that all the time. We have to learn how to listen to one another, and not always be quick to talk or quick to speak. My wife, she had to learn from me. I don't speak a lot until I have formulated my thought. So she especially when we would get into confrontation. See, women, they can articulate immediately what's on their mind. For me, I'm not that person. I like to think about what I'm going to say. So I would always fail an argument. In arguments, my wife would always win because I'm still thinking while she's spitting out everything she got to say. I know exactly what I want to say. Da, 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 and I'm sitting there thinking about what she's saying. I'm like, okay. And then maybe later on that day or the next day, I'm saying, okay, now this is what I really wanted to say. And she's like, well, why are you talking about now? So that will start another argument. So I had to show her, listen, you got to take your time with me. If you're upset, tell me what it is that you're upset about and let me think about it. Don't just expect me to be able to articulate to you right now what's on my heart, because I need to really think about it. I need to think about it. Sometimes I need to pray about it.
Listen.
Sometimes I need God to tell me, listen, or watch this. Sometimes I say, God, show me, because sometimes it'll that way I can tell her, okay, I'm sorry, God revealed to me or showed me myself. I see now why you're upset. I apologize, or I think this is what we need to do, or this is the direction that we need to go. So for me, I like to. I'm a more laid back, and my wife was she goes real quick, and so we had to learn each other, and so then what God gave me to do is we started a book of communication. So what we would do is if we have an issue, she would write down in the book, I'll come to the book, I'll read, and then I'll answer her. And that way I can articulate myself, she can understand what I'm saying. Because I'm a writer, I love to write. So I know if I write it out, I'm going to give you every thought that's in my head. You see what I'm saying? So exactly. It worked for us. Now it won't work for everybody, but that's what worked for us. And it got us through our bad places that we were in, to where we are now. God has blessed us. And I'm grateful for it. So yeah,
that's important because you have to find that place to understand each other. Because if a couple's wise, they're going to do two things. Okay, keep this in mind. Either they're going to read minds, or they're going to polish their communication skills.
Oh yeah.
Listen, ain't nobody reading no minds. Okay,
I know that's right. I
so
can't do it.
work on those communication skills if they're going to learn how to talk things over.
That's
and and communication is a skill. Even like our children, we raise them up. We tell them, listen, I can't read no minds. You need to tell me what you want. You can't read my mind.
Man, I got a 15-year-old. I say that to him all the time. Man, you better tell me what's going on, man. I don't read minds.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll
You don't speak
store.
up.
Listen. I'll be at the listen. As a matter of fact, just recently, I went to the grocery store, and my daughter, who's home for college right now, and my wife, they're home. So I'm at the grocery store. I get home, they're like, "Why you didn't bring us back?" Excuse me?
You didn't communicate to
Listen, I brought back a whole bunch of stuff, but a whole bunch of stuff that they didn't really want, though.
But they didn't say nothing, though.
Because we didn't communicate exactly what we needed. So
if I can read minds, listen, I'll be giving out $1 million to everybody.
We don't have to.
Listen,
I know how to get it.
You know how to get it.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna have to speak up then. Show me how to get that $1 million. Listen, that was good stuff. We're gonna move on to the next segment. I thank you guys for sharing your heart. Listen, you guys have been watching the Fresh Oil Podcast. We'll be back.
Hey you, is this your first time listening to the Fresh Oil Podcast? If you haven't visited our website, you can go to www.thefreshoilpodcast.com and check out our previously recorded content and keep up with the latest episodes. Also, with a small monthly donation, you can help support future episodes of our podcast. Again, just go to www.thefreshoilpodcast.com and help support the podcast today.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Fresh Oil Podcast. I'm here with MLB Speaks. Here with Martin and Nell Barrett, and we are talking with them. I want to start off this segment with two quotes that you had on your IG page that I thought were very interesting, and I wanted to get the behind the scenes on these quotes. Where did this brainchild come from? So the one quote that you have is, I guess this may be a series that you're doing on your IG page, topic called Love and Marriage. And one of the quote that came to me, it says, one says, marriage sometimes it's like a walk in the park. Then you have in bold letters Jurassic Park. But remember that your spouse is not your enemy. So where did that come from? How did that come about?
Well, that came about. I'll start off and I'll let Nell take some of the other part to that. Okay. And that is, I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Jurassic Park. I do I like the movie Jurassic Park. You know what I mean? It had a lot of riveting action. I'm an action movie guy, it speaks volumes. Jurassic Park speaks volumes in so many different ways, and especially when it comes to relationships in couples and marriage. And we put up. First of all, I'm going to back up a little bit. Little plug here. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, okay, and TikTok under MLB Speaks. So MLB in the word Speaks. You can find us under that. We just put out a simple talk just recently, on the Jurassic Park. It's about a 6-minute talk. You can find that out there, on any of our pages. You can find it on our Facebook page. Please like us and follow us. And we talked about that. My wife was doing the wonderful sound of a dinosaur. And, relationships are like a walk in a park, like Jurassic Park. when they first went into the park, one of the things that they looked for was to have fun. You know what I mean? And when you get married, what do they look for when they get married? The wedding, right? The wedding is something that everyone's excited about. But then the reality comes in, right, babe?
That's right. Things change.
That's right. And when those changes happen, they realize there's work that needs to take place.
Right.
And the struggle happens. Normally when a couple gets married, they think, oh, this is a walk in the park. They'll look at our life and goes, man, it's just easy. But they don't know what we did to get to this place.
Exactly.
Okay?
What it took. Yeah. That's the key right there. A lot of times people they see your now, but they don't understand the journey that got you to your now. Yeah. And people I tell people all the time, I say, listen, I don't envy anyone's relationship. I admire people's relationship, but I don't want to be like anybody else's relationship, because you don't know what it took for that couple to get to where they are. I tell people all the time, I say, you might not want to have dealt with me 20 years ago. Like my wife did.
One of my buddies, a good friend of mine, he said this one word. He says, if you were single, would you date yourself?
No.
That was deep. You know what I'm saying? You think about it, right? It's a true
statement. Back then? No. I was terrible.
You know what I'm saying?
None of us would.
Because when I met my wife, I always joke though. I was praying for my wife before we got married. Okay, so I come from church one time. I'm a young guy. Here I am coming from church. We lived in the same neighborhood. She became a Christian. I became a Christian. Dude, I'm driving to my apartment. She in the street fighting somebody. I'm like, I thought she was saved, man. She's like, oh. But she was saved.
Hey, she was saved, but she said, I ain't no punk.
Myself.
That's it.
I think that's where it all started. I went home. I said, I'm gonna pray for her. I went praying for her. And lo and behold, a year or so later, and here we were. Well, longer than that. But I think Jurassic Park, people enjoyed the park, but then the chaos came. Mm-hmm. After the chaos came for Jurassic Park, right, babe?
Yes, came.
And what did people do?
Those people came and they had problems, they had trouble, and they tried to figure out how are we going to get an answer to our solution. You know what?
Right.
Like in marriage, we're going to come through those obstacles, but guess what? There's always hope. Remember, no matter what, there is always hope.
And at the end of the movie, what did they do? They got control of the dinosaurs that were running rampant. And that's what we need to do. We need to get control of the situation. Sometimes, like we said earlier, we got to learn how to talk things over. Yeah. Okay. Ain't nobody read no minds. Okay. Yeah. Ain't nobody gonna go see what do you call those soothsayers? Ain't no astrology, all that stuff.
That's right.
You talk it out.
None of that. I gotta learn how to communicate.
And that's real talk right there.
That's real talk.
And that's how you make. Because one of the big things that we have in our marriage, when we do our mentoring sessions with couples, not as individuals, we do them as group sessions. And that is the number one thing we always say to ourselves, each other, or to other couples. I am not your enemy. Listen, you are not your enemy. Your enemy is outside your nucleus.
That's it.
Not within your nucleus of your marriage.
So
you got to realize, say to your spouse, regardless how difficult the challenges may be, I am not your enemy. Exactly. No matter what happens.
I like that. More. I hope that people really catch that when they watch this podcast. People really need to get that in their heart and in their minds, especially a lot of couples. I've been talking with a lot of couples as of late that I know, and a lot of them are going through go through right now, and I want them to hear that. I want them to know that your spouse is not your enemy. Like you said, it's the person on the outside is the enemy is your enemy. Come on, Satan is our enemy.
That's right.
So we have to focus on the fact that our enemy is not each other. It's the outside forces around us. Because we have to understand, first of all, the enemy doesn't want us to be together anyway. He fights relationships all the time. So we have to be. Yes, he fights against it all the time. So we have to be diligent. And I like what you said, and saying and reminding each other, I'm not your enemy. That's good stuff right there. Now I have another quote that you gave, and I thought that it was really good, and I wanted to get your where did it come from for this one as well. You said you can't be in leadership and treat people nasty, then expect to be respected due to your position or title. Think again. So where did that come from? Where did that brainchild come from?
That basically came from to the point where years of experience. First of all, I'm going to back up a little bit. I used to be a senior pastor, by the way,
Okay.
for Calvary, and they say once a pastor, you're always a pastor, right? But all my years of working in leadership, whether it's in corporate America or any type of religious organizations, you cannot be a leader and want people to follow your lead and you treat them like trash. You cannot. And I'm telling you, I don't care if you're a pastor. I talk to a lot of pastors. I know a lot of pastors. Listen, they treat people like dirt. Some of them treat people like dirt. And you know what? That doesn't fly. First of all, it is your responsibility to feed the sheep. Okay?
Yeah.
God's word.
Yeah.
Second of all, if you want respect, you have to give that respect. Respect is something you earn. And we have to learn it's reciprocal. And in corporate America, it's almost like when you see the behaviors that are happening in corporate America, they're actually now trickling down into the church more and more.
They are.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I've noticed it myself. I've been pastoring now for 6 years, and I've noticed how a lot of times I have to refocus my team to let them know, listen, this isn't a business per se. There's a business of ministry, of course. There's a business aspects of ministry. But I want you all to be mindful that we are here for a purpose. We're purpose driven. We're purpose focused. I don't want you to lose your purpose because you're trying to do smart business. A lot of times, smart business does not always equate in ministry. Sometimes we gotta step out on God and trust God. I like what you said earlier about faith. We have to have that type of faith. That faith that says, I trust God regardless of what's going on around me, regardless of what I see, regardless of how I feel, regardless of what people say might be good right now. But is that being led of God? If I'm not led of God, I don't do it. People, they're learning me because this is what's happening right now. This is what's popular right now. I said, but is that what God wants us to do? I'm always going to be led of God. Even when it came to me doing this podcast, I did not want to do this like this, but God led me in this direction. And since I've started this new platform, God has blessed it. And so I'm led of God in everything that I do. So that's what I like about that. And when I read that, I noticed that I know a lot, like you said, I know a lot of leaders, and some of them are very, like you said, mean. I'm like, how do you work with people and you're mean?
Yeah.
And then expect them to do for you or support you, but you're mean. I'm like, we have to come out of this mentality of ruling with an iron fist. It's a lot of this comes from the old church.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what happens is, they figure that, don't let me tell you something. Here's something you can look at. Some leaders, I'm going to be real here.
Mm-hmm.
They could be a pastor. If you call them by their first name, they'd be like, what? You call me by my first name? I'd be like, listen, first of all, you was Michael before you was Pastor Michael.
I know that's right.
Listen, all right? Let your car break down. You get in the car crash. You want somebody to call you Pastor Michael? You're like, no, get me out of here. Okay? Let's be real here, because God don't care about my title.
He don't.
Listen, when I was a pastor, I'm gonna be straight up with you. Now I get it. Some people say, hey, they respect the fact, they call them by their title, whatever they want to. Listen be none. People call me Martin. Listen, let me tell you why. Because I am no better than nobody else out there in that congregation, in the audience. Okay. Nope. And at the end of the day, I need to give an account for everything I do in this body here.
That's it.
On earth. All I want to do I want to hear those wonderful words, well done.
That's
That's
it.
all. That's it.
That's
all.
it.
Good, faithful servant.
Yeah.
Because you know why? There's a lot of people doing a lot of stuff, a lot of leaders doing a lot of stuff on earth.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? There could be some people in heaven that they think they thought would never be in heaven. There could be some people you thought was going to be in God's heaven.
I know that's right.
You know what he's going to say? Talk to the hand.
Talk to the hand.
I don't even know you.
I don't even know you. See, that's the thing. Their hearts were far from him. The Bible talks about it. That's how the Bible says. They did. You did a lot of stuff you said in my name, but your hearts were far from me.
That's right.
So he's gonna be like, I don't know you. And it all goes back to what I've been preaching and teaching about since we started 6 years ago, is relationship. Everything with God goes back to being in relationship, not just in right relationship with him, but also in our horizontal relationship with others. If our relationships with others aren't correct, then our relationship with him can't be in place. Because in order to be in good relationship, come on. If you say you love God, that's it.
The brother or sister who's right next to us face to face.
That's word. Yeah.
Listen, this is the kind of conversations that, unfortunately, in today's, especially in Western Christianity, we do not like to address. You know what I mean? I can go on and on about a lot of these different things from a leadership perspective that we need to address within the fellowship of the body of believers, but that's a whole other conversation.
And we can have that conversation. I'm gonna have you back just to maybe talk about some of those things. Yeah, definitely, because it's needed. The conversations. That's why I love that I have this platform, because I could talk about anything. I could talk about politics. I could talk about religion. I could talk about anything. And I love this platform because God gave it to me so that I can have an open platform for people to talk about those different avenues and areas that aren't normally talked about, that people don't really want to talk about. So I look like, listen, let's talk about it, because the only way that we can bring resolution to it is that we have to have an open conversation. We have to have communication. So that's good stuff, guys.
I would say, can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your Fresh Voice podcast, Fresh Oil. I'm sorry. Forgive me for that. The Fresh Oil podcast.
Yes, sir.
When I was a pastor, I had a radio program on radio. It was a popular station in Connecticut, and we call it the Fresh Voice radio broadcast.
Wow.
It's like I got to see if I could dig up my old worship leader who created the song for it. It was awesome. When I said Fresh Oil podcast, I was like, oh man, it's like Fresh Voice radio broadcast.
Oh, that's what's up. See, God gave, I'm gonna tell you how Fresh Oil came to be. My worship leader at the time, before he moved away, we were having services, and our services were just they were just crazy high spiritual services. So we were having a service one Sunday, and he said, he coined the phrase. He said, man, this is like a fresh oil service. And I said, say that again. He's like, this is like a fresh oil service. I said, that's what we're going to call our services. So every Sunday we will promote fresh oil service. Meet us at the fresh oil service. So it just stuck with us. And we then when I started the Fresh Oil podcast, it started off as just the church podcast at first, and I was just promoting, our ministry things, services and things like that. But then God brought me over into this platform of this on how to do this podcast, and it has really grown since I've changed the concept of the podcast, with me hosting and doing interviews and things like that. So it was a different thing for me, but sometimes we got to step outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to step outside of our comfort zone and be led of God.
And that's what we basically are doing. I was an executive working for some of the largest IT firms in North America. Prior to, I was working for some of the largest, IT doing right before COVID. I was due to be in Shenzhen in Guangdong province, working for two of the largest Asian IT firms. doing robotics. And listen, God's seen some other ways, things, with COVID and things and divisions being closed down and so forth. But what we're doing today, MLB Speaks, this has been in the making for 5 years. And at this point, we just said, you know what, as one, we're not young, we're not old, in those 50s, pushing mid 50s, pushing up. But we've gotten to the point that what we want to do is, this is our time. This is our moment to really go out, make a difference, speaking tours, podcasts like here, Fresh Oil Podcast, articles and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Because one, we don't know how short a time we may have left on this earth.
Right.
And two, we're going to seize the moment.
That's it. I love that. We have to seize the moment. This is the season for it. We have to go out and do all that God is calling us to do in this season. So that's good. That's good. So listen, I just want you to share with the people before we get out of here some of the things that's on the horizon for you guys. What's going on? What's coming up for MLB Speaks? What's on the calendar for you guys? What's coming up for you guys?
Well, number one is, Lord willing, our goal is have a book coming out later this year in 2022. We're hoping that everyone will support us. One is we just updated some things on our website just a few days ago. We're encouraging people to really like us on social platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and all of them out there, and TikTok.
Yes.
And that's MLB Speaks. And the website is mlbspeaks.com.
Yes.
We're also going on a speaking tour. So what that basically means is we're going out to churches who say, hey, you know what? You want to be able to bring us to your organization. If you got a marriage retreat, workshop happening over the weekends, hey, listen, we're open. We're willing to come to you guys, share our heart. We have our own curriculum that we kind of walk through everyone through for the day. For about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on what you want to do. We could come in as the main point, or we can come in as a supportive to what you're doing. Outside of that, we also are continuing to grow and really go into like youth programs, speaking to youth, young adults, and also myself. I go into corporate America, just talking about the different sales methodologies on how you can increase your sales and grow your business. Listen, sometimes they're not just from a business perspective. There's months where, hey, having bonuses of 20, 30K, you can have that. But there's some methods that you need to follow, okay? Yeah. Listen, that's why God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth. That's for us to be able to listen twice this month. And that's a method that not just from corporate America, but also within our Christian community, they can take that and apply them to their lives. Definitely. But one last tidbit I do want to say, with 2 groups that I was in, one was before I became a Christian, and one that I was in, which was above sea level. Solid Ice I was with before I came to faith. And above sea level was when I came to faith. And I'm actually working on 2 reunion songs with both of these guys. The guy that I was with before I became a Christian, Solid Ice, I'm working on some music with him. And also those that were Christians are working on something. And also those who do come, when you book us, when you do come to Unbelievable, we call it Unbelievable Love, or Unbelievable. I do have a Forever Love song that I wrote for my wife. So you get the new school hip hop joint. That's how we flow. So you'll get to enjoy and hear that. When you come to us, when we speak, I do a couple love tunes in the hip hop flavor, no matter how old you are. So it is adult Christian love hip hop.
That's what's up.
It's not kid music.
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
I'm listening. I'm gonna have to get a hold of this music. Any new music, listen, send me that new music when it drops. I can't wait to hear it. Listen, thank you again for coming on the show and being with us today. Listen, Fresh Oil Podcast and listeners and viewers, listen, We want to thank you all for listening and tuning in to the Fresh Oil Podcast. I want to thank Martin and Neil, for being with us on today. And listen, I want you to always remember, Jesus came that you might have what? Life, and that you might have it what? More abundantly. And I decree and declare that you walk, live, abide in your abundance right now. God bless you. And we'll see you next time right here on the Fresh Oil Podcast.